Is international affairs expert Abel Oyeyo from the Center for African Progress. Thank you very much, Abel, for coming in. Good morning. Let's just start off from the U.S. President Trump says he has not seen any politician being treated as unfairly as he has. Thoughts?
I think it's just being a crybaby. Trump has made a series of mistakes ever since he was elected. Of course, his election itself was a mistake, given what we're seeing. It's like the Russians, of course, assisted in the election of an American president, I think, for the first time in history, unless there is something, again, we don't know. So far, the information that is coming out is the Russians had a hand in his election. And, of course, he's handling it in a very poor way. So I don't think he has a reason to complain. In fact, Americans need to hold him accountable because what he's doing now is, I think, tantamount to obstruction of justice. Yeah, for example, there's a revelation that he called James Comey and told him to stop investigating Michael Flynn, which of course means he wanted justice to be subverted. So I don't think he has a reason to complain. He has no reason to cry whatsoever.
Donald Trump, since he began working officially as president, has made controversial decision after controversial decision, the last one being the firing of FBI Director James Comey, and even the kind of comments he is making. What do you make out of all this? Is this a person who just didn't know what to expect in the presidency and he just does not know how to handle it?
Yes, I don't think Trump is not presidential material. He was not meant to be an American president, given, of course, the history of the American presidency. Trump is a showman. That is what he does best. Of course, from The Apprentice, you know how he does marvelously well. So he's been a slow learner, and of course, people learn on the job, but I don't think he's been able to learn very well. And the likelihood of Trump being impeached is now, I think, very high. Guys who've been betting have now, gotten a lot of money back. And I think it's not going to take. 2017 is going to be the year, most likely the year when Trump will be impeached, which means now the vice president will take over.
What are we saying? He could possibly not finish this year as president?
The chances of that happening are very, very high. Because I don't think Trump fired James out of nowhere. Most likely James was onto something. And because he told him to stop investigating the whole thing, and, the FBI director couldn't listen, he had to send him home. Now, he picked a different guy to, take over from... Sessions, the deputy, who I think he expected to also play ball. Of course, he refused. He got a different guy to look into the same mess of Russia. That is the Independent Council. Of course, he's come out and complained, it was not necessary to get Robert to begin again following up the Russia thing and all that. So what it means is there is more than meets the eye. We've been told now, it's not just Michael Flynn who was in contact with the Russians, but so many other guys. 18 calls and face-to-face meetings were held between Russians and the Trump officials during the campaign. Something, they've not been able to come out and reveal. So I think there is more, and that is what's likely to lead to impeachment.
Well, he's now going for his first foreign trip to some of the Arab countries. Could it be a chance to redeem himself on some of the policies he talked about on the campaign trail?
It can also be a chance for him to destroy himself further. He's being Trump, of course. Like yesterday, he was being asked a question. Actually, the question was directed at the Colombian president who was there, the White House, and he was asked whether he agrees with Trump about the construction of the building of a wall. And he said he ducked. He dodged the question. He didn't want, of course, to say he does not like walls. Trump came in and said, "Trust me, walls work." So the same is doubling down on the same statement, the same agenda that does not, work. So it can be a chance for him to destroy himself even further. He's being Trump. He's not supposed to be president. I call him an accident of history. Yeah.
So we should be expecting impeachment from your own analysis
that
for
is what
one Donald J. Trump.
Trump, yes. And the American system works so well. It's got some self-correcting measures. So if a mistake was made somewhere, it's going to be followed all the way.
But what will all this currently, what does it all mean for the Americans?
There is so much. Now there is what we call economic uncertainty. The markets responded.
Yes.
They are not doing very well. And obviously, you can expect a slowdown in the creation of jobs. There's now what we call total concentration on Trump and his mess instead of doing things that Americans value, like dealing with immigration, healthcare, and all that. So there's going to be stagnation on so many fronts, as you know, Americans now invest in dealing with the Trump mess, which of course connects the U.S. election to Russia.
All right, let's go to the UK, where campaigns are ongoing for the snap elections. Theresa May specifically called for this election, saying that it would help unify Westminster ahead of the negotiations of Brexit.
Yeah.
Are you seeing this work out for her?
Well, I think it's going to work out for her. And, you know, that is the beauty of Western democracy. You seek a fresh mandate, and then, you know, once you do something, you know, you have the blessings of the people. It's unlike how we do it here. Once you get into office, you know, using dubious means, you can decide to postpone elections from time to time so as to, you know. But
we've seen that a lot of times.
Yeah. But in Western democracies, it's all about going back to the people. You get a fresh mandate, and then, you know, now you get the power to accomplish whatever you want to do. So I think it's working. It's going to be good for her. And when she comes back after, you know, the election, if the Conservatives get to win, now she'll say, I've been given a mandate by the people to do this. So she'll be negotiating from a strong position.
What are her chances?
Very good. Let's give her 55. Yes.
A sharp contrast happening here in Africa. DRC, Congo, Joseph Kabila and the opposition are still at loggerheads for the longest time now.
Yeah, I think in Africa now we have two waves. There's the wave, we have the dictatorial wave, and of course the democratic tide. Now, there are some countries that have opened, of course, their spheres to democracy, and they allow for elections from time to time. They encourage what we call debates on vital issues. And then, of course, we have the remaining dictatorships. Talk about Rwanda, talk about Burundi, and now DRC. So Kabila does not want to quit. He wants to become another Kagame. Now, the reason as to why he's been able to survive is the relatively high levels of illiteracy in DRC. So that means the people cannot come out and challenge his rule and all that. He's been president since 2001, January. So he's been president for close to 17 years now.
17 years, yes.
Yes, and I think they came out and said the earliest they can hold elections is next year. That is early 2018, which means what he's looking for is a chance to keep on staying, you know. And
he was expected to commit to an agreement, which he has not.
Yes, in fact, he's going ahead now to form a government, which includes opposition figures. So we're looking at a guy who wants to be president for a longer period than expected. So it's going to be very bad, and I expect African leaders to pressure him to honor the constitution and, of course, the agreement he signed with the opposition. But when half the African leaders subscribe to the things that he's done, that is the problem. But what will this mean for the people of DRC? Most likely it will again take the country back to civil strife, which is unfortunate. But I hope there's going to be pressure from the African Union and, of course, the international community to make sure he honors the deal he made with the opposition so that we can avoid bloodshed. If indeed African leaders put pressure on him and the international community, and just before we get into that, do you think there is commitment from African leadership in such situations? We saw it work in Gambia. Do you think it will work on DRC, specifically African leadership? Yes, there's what we call equity. When you come to equity, you have to come with clean hands. Now, we have a couple of African leaders who embrace democracy. So if they call him and tell him, Kabila, your time is up, just make sure you do what? Pave way for elections. I think you can listen. Now, unfortunately, such leaders are very few, but they can go ahead and tell him, no, we need to just clean our act as Africans, and it's time to quit. So that can help. And I'm looking at the Ghanaian president. I'm looking at people like the president of Kenya. You know, they can tell him now, just, you know, go ahead and do it. And what? Create space. Time is up for you, and it's for the betterment of your country and your people. Let's avoid war. All right. Let's get into the country now, the politics, our own politics. IEBC has released its nomination list. I don't know whether you've had a chance to look at it. Yes, I have. Yes. What do you think about it? I think no surprises. And I think it's been done on a timely manner. We're still within the calendar. The only thing I think I have to insist on, they have to make sure the elections are free and fair. It's going to be a very, very close election. And close elections, of course, cause some kind of tension. So they have to make sure they get the numbers right. Yeah, so far things I think are going on well. Yeah, of course, we have some cries from the opposition and the
Yes,
government at
yes.
some point, but that is just noise. I think the IBC is doing a good job. They
Well,
need all the
surprisingly,
support.
we've seen Raila Odinga's running mate, Kalonzo Musyoka's name there on the presidential nomination list for the aspirants. What do you make of that? What would it mean for NASA?
I think
Or should we just treat it as a mistake?
that is a mistake. Yeah, obviously Kenyans know that Musyoka is a deputy presidential candidate for NASA, and it's not a big deal. Yeah.
All right. Abel, thank you so much for coming and helping us take a look at a number of the stories that stubbornly on our headlines. Abel Oyeyo is an international issues expert. Thank you so much for coming in. And of course, Trix Ngado is already in studio to just help us take a look at also some of the other things that are making headlines on our international papers. Trix?